Welcome back to Two Crows, Frightening Frauen. We have Lee. You have to say words.
Amos?
And Amos.
Yeah.
Hi. No. When I was doing our first one, I was like, oh, she waved but didn't say anything. And I'm like, oh no, audio's not going to be able to hear you.
That's okay. I'm awkward like that.
That's okay. We're both awkward. And I think they know that by now. So,
And if they didn't, they do now.
yes. They haven't mentioned it yet. Maybe they enjoy it.
Yeah. Maybe they relate.
I did not find any funny news for today because I was so focused on our story, which is the longest one yet.
I read an article and I went over it in a podcast episode that's going to be coming up on mine, but I have to tell you because it is funny. It's about the study and the science of what collects in our belly buttons and how the stuff gets there. And like scientists have multiple scientists have looked into this and like collected like lint from different people and looked at the shapes of the belly buttons and the type of hair around the belly button and stuff like that. And like I was like reading, I was like, this is amazing. This is
How do
this
I
is
get in
like
on this study?
right. It's just like I love it when like scientists do like they chase a curiosity that's very personal for them, because it's often very silly like that. And it's like, we don't need to know. And yet we need to know.
We want to know.
Yeah. Look at his face.
Look
Just
at
like,
his little face. Oh, sorry for the glare on my glasses, guys. I don't have glassesusa.com sponsoring me yet, so I don't have cool glasses that don't have glare. So
I want
wink,
some of those.
glassesusa.com.
I got clear. Yeah, bring it.
Bring on the sponsors. We need that's why I wore the glasses, just so they'd see me.
Yeah. I mean, I like my glasses. They're from Zenny, but I'm sure, there's some better glasses out there.
Yeah, I think they have like hundreds and hundreds, like I think 5,000 different types of glasses, and then you can get all the different coatings and stuff on them. And come on, guys, we'll buy them from you if you sponsor us.
At a discounted rate.
So that was our not sponsorship, and
or please sponsor us sponsorship.
yeah, that's funny. But no, I want to get in on that belly button lint thing and have them test mine, because my belly button was like flat until I had my last surgery on my stomach, and now I have an innie, and I get like a mild amount of lint.
Yeah.
And it happens on occasion, and I wonder how it gets there.
My belly button is different than it was. I used to have more of a flat one with just a slight indent. Mm-hmm. And now it's not an innie, but it's a little deeper than it used to be. I haven't started collecting lint yet, but the study did say that like if you wear certain types of materials, you're more likely to get lint. And I don't wear those type of materials. Like I wear pure cotton and linen, so I don't get like the fuzzy stuff. And you're more likely to get it if you wear fuzzy stuff or fuzzy blankets or whatever. But also, like, I don't really have any. I just have peach fuzz, and hair.
I don't
helps
have hair really.
Bring it in there, and I don't really have a whole lot going on there.
No, and thinking about it, it's usually when I'm wearing a lot of my cosplays that I'll get stuff in my belly button, and a lot of those are very fuzzy, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
my other clothes aren't, because like, one, the sensory issues, like I have to have certain types of materials. And two, the types of materials in general that cause me to have issues. I find some materials actually hold laundry detergent in them, and those I can't do, because even the like allergy sensitive laundry detergents, my body can't do a lot of it, and so I need to do like Arm & Hammer with just a little bit in the water.
Yeah. I use Charlie's soap, which we're not sponsored for them either, but I would
Yeah,
love to be
Charlie.
because I fucking love their stuff. F bomb love their stuff. And like I used a household cleaner. I used the laundry soap. I got into it in 2007 because I started having really bad allergic reactions using a shared washer, and started learning about like how bad detergents are for the environment and our skin. And Charlie soap is very popular in the cloth diaper circles. And if the
Ooh.
mommies like it, it's
And the
gonna be good.
babies. And the
Yeah,
babies do well with it. Yeah,
yeah.
I'll look into that.
And then their household cleaner is, there's no real smell to it. It degreases, like you basically buy like a bottle and then you add water and
Mm-hmm.
dilute it to the strength of what you, so you can like degrease a chain with it full strength. You can wash your dog with it. It's that safe. Like, so that's like pretty much all I use. And
Sorry, has my heart right now.
and it's I love that stuff. It's like I have like very specific things, and I will be devastated if they ever like go away, because I'm like, what am I gonna use instead? My skin is so sensitive.
Yeah, even when I made my own, like the stuff that you have to put into it to make your own, I still had reactions to it, and a lot of people in
Yeah,
like the crunchy community like told me to use this stuff, and I still couldn't. Arm and Hammer, and then there's a baby one that I can use, and I still have to use like half the amount.
yeah.
Um, and then for like deodorant and stuff, I found that I can use Native and is it Lumi?
Yeah, I say Lume, but yeah, I use Lume, and I've been pretty okay with it.
Yeah,
Even it has more smell than I like, but the scentless stuff
there's a
has even
scent
more smell.
free.
Yeah, it smells even more than
Oh,
the
I
scented
don't
stuff.
have that one, so
Yeah, it's not. But
it has a smell.
yeah, it's a lie. At least with my nose, because I have like a super nose. But yeah, the Lume is good. I haven't tried the other one, but I just, once I found something that I didn't
Yeah.
react to, I like. And then I use Cetaphil. I've been using Cetaphil since I was like 20 for soap.
Mm-hmm.
It's not soap. And then I just started using the baby Cetaphil shampoo for my scalp, because I like have endless issues with my scalp because of the mast cell stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been like, I'll find something, like I was using what's that brand that's like, I don't, Jennifer, like one of those actresses,
Oh
like
yeah, she's like,
Alba or
yeah,
something, and it's Honest, the Honest brand.
yeah, that one.
Um, and I was doing okay with it, and then I started having issues. Um, and so I just switched to the Cetaphil baby shampoo and wash, and I can wear my headset. I'm not hurting. It's like the first
Yay!
time in like 5 years that I haven't had like excruciating pain when I have something on my scalp. So
That's
um,
awesome.
I hope it.
Um, I switched to the Native shampoo and conditioner because I was having issues. My body like starts having issues with things it didn't for a long time. But I was using another one from Whole Foods that was like an oatmeal based one. And I started having issues with that. I switched to Native about a year and a half ago, and I haven't had any issues. I switched everything. I did deodorant, shampoo, conditioner, and body wash, and I haven't had any issues. But the kids keep stealing it, and it's not cheap.
Yeah.
But the
Good.
scents smell good, and like I usually can't do any scents, and there I can
Yeah.
do theirs.
Nice. Yeah, that was, I was surprised with the Lume stuff. The scent stuff doesn't bother me, but I'm okay with like good quality like essential oils. I usually
Mm-hmm.
am okay with those as long as I'm not allergic to the thing that the oil's
The
from.
carrier, yeah.
Yeah. So those, I hate perfumes and stuff. I will like, my face starts getting puffy, and I'll walk past somebody that uses like Tide or whatever in like Costco, and like my nose will start running. I start coughing, and it's awful. Like I don't, even with like the masks on, the masks help a little bit, but I just hate going in public because people smell,
They do
like just
smell.
they just smell, and it's not BO smell. It's
I'd
like,
rather your BO.
yeah, they're all wearing perfume like they live in the era when people showered once a year, like, or bathed once a year. Like, dude, you take showers, you don't need that.
And it actually messes up your attraction to people because your genetic attraction to somebody else has a lot to do with their sense. And
Hmm.
so when you're not smelling their actual natural sense, you may have ugly babies because you're not actually genetically compatible to have good babies.
Yeah. So, dude, the smell, like the smell of a person when they smell right,
I
yeah,
want to
buddy.
bury my nose in your armpit.
I'll like steal their clothes just so I can wrap my face in it, you
Don't
know?
wash it.
Yeah. So my ex had like the almost no smell. Like it was
Mhm.
perfect. It was like just like recognizable, but almost no noticeable smell, which to me means we were like in sync in terms of like our bacteria and all that stuff. Like and I loved it because it was I could recognize him, but I didn't feel overwhelmed by any sort of scent or whatever.
That's
You know.
amazing.
Yeah, it's rare. It's rare. Most people I'm like,
My
you know,
teenagers are gross.
my son is an adult and he's still got a little bit going on sometimes, and you know, I like adore him, but he'll go to hug me and I'm like, mm, I don't know what's happening there. Drink more water.
Maybe, or maybe it's like us, and like that they don't
It
smell
is.
good to us because they're our offspring.
Yeah. And I usually assume it's me just because I have such a sensitive nose and I smell things that, like, I just walk into people's houses and I'll be like, oh, you need to wash your shower towel because it has mildew on it. You know, like, and I'll be at the front door and can just smell these things. And,
I'm very sensitive to mildew.
yeah, oh God, I've had some horrific reactions to people's houses when they don't clean their, like, shower towel, not shower towel, but shower mat or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Because that's like a blind spot for a lot of people. And just like I'll know when people have leaks underneath their kitchen sinks because I'll know the smell, you know. And I can't leave it alone. I If I walked in your house and something didn't smell right, you would have to deal with me walking around being like,
That's
"Well, I
okay. I'll
found
make you
it."
come over to find what's wrong.
So, and I always, when people come over to my house, they're always like, "Your house like has no smell," and I'm like, "Yes, I work hard on that." It's the neutral is very important to me. My last house had a smell because there was mold in it, and it was embarrassing. People came over and they're like, "Why does your house have a smell?" And I'm like, "I can't get rid of it."
I I love that people come into my house and they're like, "Oh, you have cats?" I'm like, "Yes, I do.
Yeah,
You couldn't smell them."
yeah.
Which also,
Oh,
Pretty
that's
Litter does not sponsor us either. So,
yeah. I get like Dr. Elsie's cat litter. That's mine, and I'm open to either one for a sponsorship.
I've had Pretty Litter because it'll tell you if your cats have like crystals in their pee, like
Mhm.
your um,
Yeah, like Brago.
roommate's cat.
Yeah.
And it'll tell you different things. So like the bag has different colors that the crystals will turn if and there's no dust either. And whatever the crystals are made out of is actually like super safe. And so there's not a lot of like issues anyone's had with it. And if you don't like it, they'll let you like have it for free and never buy it again.
Nice. That's nice.
So sponsor
Like,
us.
yeah. I looked at their stuff for a while, but I don't. I'm not worried about it with because I have a low stress cat and I just feed
Mm-hmm.
raw food, and you know, like diet is a big part of crystal formation, and stress is a big part. So I've got the diet covered, and he's a floppy flop. So I
Mine get into things, so I'd love to know.
yeah, yeah. I think like I might recommend it for Brago to my roommate.
Because then he'll know when there's an issue and it starts, so that before the cat
Yeah.
may even know that it started.
Yeah, because I'm like really sensitive. I pick up on like behavior and pattern changes, and he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, and that's why like it got so bad those times. He didn't recognize, you know, that the pee piles had gotten smaller because he was irritated and going more often and stuff. And
Oh,
yeah,
baby.
so like having like a visual. Hopefully, I will remember at the end of this to text that to him.
Yes. I'll try to remember to tell you.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'll remember when I watch this later.
Yes. Okay. Do you want to get into this crazy story?
Let's do it.
It was supposed to be. So it was between this one and the one we did last week that were going to be my first episode. I decided not to do this one as the first one because I wanted to do a powerful woman who was good. And this one's kind of a vigilante of sorts. And mind you, so if everything in this is true, because I mean it was in the 17th century, but if everything in this is true, she is the most successful serial killer / vigilante hero that has ever existed.
So we're going into hero territory here now, right?
I would assume I would call her a hero. Others would call her a villain. I, in my heart of hearts, believe that she did the best she could at the time for what was available to women at the time.
I can kind of feel the vibe where this is going.
All right. So I have it here so that I don't have to put it over my face this time.
Oh yeah.
Our first video recording, I think I mentioned it in the last one to you guys. We had a scrap because I put my notes over my face and was screen recording.
And I didn't even, like, you mentioned it and it didn't
Neither
register
of us
at all.
about it.
Yeah. We were too excited.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So if you guys follow and watch Bailey Sarian, you may have heard of this person because she did a ton of research, which is where I got a lot of mine from. There's not a lot on this person because it's the 17th century and there were witch hunts going on. And according to the people at the time, she was evil and a witch and satanic and whatever when they went to do her story and her everything that goes down. But she did a ton of digging. I went through her resources. I went through some other resources, and she pretty much had everything from the story in her podcast. But I did have a little bit more to add and change to that I found myself. And I went through the resources to get the story together. And it took me a while, and it was really fun. Because this person is insanely amazing. Okay. So her name's Giulia Tofana. And her early life is a pretty big mystery because she wasn't of any importance back then to anybody and was a woman, so there's not a lot on her as a child and growing up. And there wasn't a lot of records afterwards that they talked to family or anything like that. They kind of just did their thing and let it be. There aren't even known surviving portraits of her, so we do not even know exactly what she looks like, but a lot of people that talked about her after everything went down and the notes and journals that we have say that she was very beautiful. So we do know that at least. We don't know what that means for the time because they had weird beauty standards, but she's thought to be the daughter of Tofania. I don't know how to pronounce this name. Tofania.
Bo with a B?
Thofania. Tofania Odamo, who was executed herself in July of 1633.
Tofania Odamo. I just needed to say it.
Yeah, say it. Go for it. Shout it.
Tofania Odamo. It's just got a good, like, mouthfeel, you know?
It changes her name to Video. For anyone who is hearing impaired, that is not her name. Video is not her name. Okay. So she murdered her husband, which kind of plays into the future. And I think The daughter kind of played on that. There isn't any reason in history of why she killed her husband or how she killed her husband, but I have a theory that he was probably abusive and she most likely poisoned him. And
Statistically very likely.
very likely based on the rest of the story. The records show earliest that Giulia was in Palermo, Italy. Palermo, Italy. You can yell at me for any mispronunciations and let me know what I say wrong in the comments, guys.
I will. It will never be me doing the yelling because I know what words look like. I don't know what they sound like.
And Bailey Sarian does not say things right, so I don't know if they're right. So, okay, into Giulia. This is a little overview of what she's known for. She killed hundreds of men in the 17th century. Under the front of her makeup business, she created her infamous poison named Aqua Tofana. Say it. Aqua Tofana.
Aqua Tofana. Aqua Tofana.
And the main ingredients were arsenic, lead, and belladonna. And these are the agents that together would be very lethal to somebody ingesting even a small amount.
Aqua Tofana.
Aqua Tofana.
You sounded a lot sexier when you did that than I did.
I didn't even know if you'd be able to hear it. Okay, so belladonna, because it's not used very much today, is a berry juice that was used in Italy by women in their eyes to dilate them to make them appear more striking, and was a hot beauty item.
So it was a beauty item to make yourself look high as fuck.
Dilated pupils were the equivalent to floof lashes today.
Wow. I guess, like, because, you know, when people get excited, their eyes briefly dilate, so maybe that kind of, like, tied into that, but, like...
Oh, you're right, because when you see someone that you find really attractive, your eyes dilate for a minute or a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if you're scared, so...
So these women were walking around, like, either, well, based on our current association, they would just look really high, but, like, they might have just looked terrified, and that did it for the guys.
Yeah. What I wrote in here was, not sure if men liked it, but women sure seemed to love it on themselves. And the confidence is sexy.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if it made them happy.
I was like, it's funny how the fads of beauty change so much. I just saw a comment on someone's video who had dilated pupils in their video. And the comment section was full of people asking what drugs they were on. It was just like comment after comment. Oh, you look messed up.
Yep.
She would have been beautiful in the 17th century. She
would have been like, just like, I don't know, with a cutting edge of style and beauty and alluringness. Allure. I don't know.
I think it would be just the allure. The allure. So I also wrote, so when I was a kid, I was made fun of for a lot of things that now are beauty standards. So I had reddish hair, freckles, including lip liner of freckles, just natural liner. Yeah. I had 2 different colored eyes, and nowadays, and really pale skin, if you can't tell. And nowadays, those are all beauty standards. Like, they're things people surgically do or tattoo on themselves or dye their hair to have, and I was made fun of relentlessly for them as a child.
Yeah. It was just my build, and now my build is more popular, but, you know, like, because it was, like, very lean and sort of flat bodies that were only round in certain spots, and now it's okay to be round in lots of spots, and I'm super round everywhere, so...
Yep. And now that is in, though, being round.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I I love seeing the confidence in younger people who got to grow up seeing that be socially acceptable. Whereas like I grew up, I have all that programming that it's bad, and so I like I'm like, ooh, I'm so happy that they get to have that like that experience of feeling good in their skin and being like, yeah.
Yeah, I agree because they're not, you're right, because even though times have changed now and it is acceptable and bodies are beautiful and they're celebrated and we see models of all different body types and ages now, where before it was like you had to be young, which how do you keep that? You had to
Yeah.
be young, you had to have a certain type of thin. It was not too thin, it was thin in the middle with like that 36, 24, 36.
Yeah. Well, and that was a little bit later for me because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like 10 plus years older than you. So for me, there was like there was the 36, 24, 36 was not, they hadn't, it was Bo Derek body. It was very
Mm-hmm.
lean. Barbie body, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's what I was programmed with, which like, that's not even, there's not even 1% of the population that has the right build to look that way.
No, no. And a lot of those people have to be surgically altered to look that way because it's not natural to have that body type and the same assets that are
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. But
And who has pointy boobs, okay?
I don't. Oh man, don't even get me started on the whole boob thing. And like, I went to the doctor because I thought there was something wrong with my boobs because I never saw puffy nipples, and nipples that are not hard because in TV
Mhm.
they always ice them up, right?
Mhm.
They don't do that as much anymore, which is great. But when I was a kid, like at Terminator 2, dude, they iced her up good, or Terminator 1, sorry. And like I thought that's what they're supposed to look like, so I went to the doctor and went, "What's wrong with these?" And she's like, "They're normal," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" I mean that like the power
Mhm.
of media right there.
You're not alone. I can tell you, you are not alone. Oh gosh, it's so true. Um. Oh yeah, that. I will just skip that part. Um. We don't need to talk about my feet. Okay.
What? No, okay, no.
Don't
Back up.
judge how I make my money, okay?
I want to. I need to know now. So you got to go back to it.
Oh, I just said that I was made fun of for my like long feet and toes, and now it's like in
Oh.
to have like different types of feet for like foot fetishes.
Yeah, I keep trying to figure out how to tap into that, but it hasn't worked yet.
It's oversaturated now, I think.
Probably.
Although they are always looking for new feet. So if they know you don't do it yet, and then they get you to do it, then you may have people.
Hmm.
So it's just getting them in there by posting like kind of oblivious things. Like, I didn't mean for it to be a foot thing. Like for me, it's my stomping videos. I did not know that was a fetish. And
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
I love stomping on things, and someone paid me $250 to stomp on a TV that was broken and I was already going to get rid of it.
I would do that because
So
I would do that without getting paid.
And then someone was paying me $25 a video to send them videos of me stomping on like cans and stomping on like just different things that were normal to stomp. Like I was gonna stomp on them anyway.
I had like this artsy fartsy idea of doing Jello, and I wanted to do like slow mo videos of the Jello, but I wanted to do like videos of me stepping in the Jello.
Yeah.
And I got this idea before any sort of like foot fetish like knowledge, and then it was like I haven't done it yet, and now I'm like, can I mark it?
Yeah, you can. I guarantee it. Okay, back into makeup. Makeup then had a lot of lead and arsenic in powder makeups as well as liquids. So if you're putting it on your face, most likely it had arsenic and lead in it, and that was to lighten your complexion and make you look sickly.
Wow,
Like me.
that's so
I-
scary.
I feel like I was the beauty standard back then.
You would have had all the suitors down like around the block, like asking for your
Mm-hmm.
hand without getting to know you.
Although they were on witch hunts, so I'm not sure I would have lasted very long. Although I
Yeah.
doubt real witches ever really got caught. It was the people who they just didn't like and called
Like the
witches.
feminists. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We practice in the shadows. You would never know. So the Renaissance was a complete cesspool of death traps in that day in life. And so she was able to kind of fly under the radar with what she was doing because people were dying left and right anyways. And she knew that if she did it in a certain way, that she could make it just seem like some of the normal people just dying of illnesses that we can cure today.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember, this is the 17th century, and women did not get to choose their husbands or decide whether or not they wanted to be married in the first place. Men didn't really even get to choose either. It's their families that did. But at least they got to control the families, the finances, the wealth, where they lived, everything. But
Yeah.
they didn't get to choose who their wife was. But they did choose when they had children, or at least tried to. And they chose everything else.
Yep.
So I don't really feel too bad for them not choosing their wife.
Nope.
So the parents typically arranged marriages to have a stronger business tie with another family or position of power. Women had zero control over how the family was run, finances, when they would have children. Yes, rape wasn't rape in marriages, and it was your responsibility to provide family
Yeah.
members. And like maternal mortality or morbidity
Yeah.
was extremely high. Like dying in childbirth was pretty much a day-to-day thing in society, especially with how many children they were expected to have. And then
Yeah.
they needed to have even more children than they wanted to have because the infant death
High.
rate was extremely high. So they needed to
Yeah.
have more children with the assumption some of them would die.
It's actually that whole like area of medicine, like, like shifted in the early 1900s, and we started seeing, like, especially with like the polio vaccine and stuff like that, just seeing kids living longer, where suddenly you didn't have to have like 10 kids just so that 3 would survive. And that like has been a change, that there are people alive who witnessed that change. It's
Mm-hmm.
very, very new for us as a like species. It's weird because it like turned into a whole like be independent and don't live at home thing and anti-family and blah 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 very quickly. Like we shifted, and yeah. Anyway, I'm rambling, but
No, it's
yeah.
true. We've seen it in our lifetime, and we've tried to fix it, and then it gets unfixed with other
Yeah.
things. The U.S. right now is one of the highest for maternal and infant death rates because of our overturn of Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
And yeah, we talked about with Victoria how pro-life can be used in a positive way, and this is not a positive way to do
Right.
it. Won't get too political on you here, but abuse in relationships also was only wrong if the woman was abusing the man. It was not illegal for the husband to subdue his wife
Yeah.
and make her submissive.
Which is why poison was such a popular option.
Yeah, it was expected if she stepped out of line or stepped outside of her role as wife and mother. There were no laws or authorities to protect these women, and it was the known and expected life for them. Physical abuse was rampant among families. This was seen through every level or status in society. So from the top to the bottom, women in every status were being abused in possibly different ways, but women who were from more wealthy families were seen as like a higher commodity and had to act even, I guess,
Yeah.
as like a more expensive woman and
Yeah.
be like they paid more for her, so she needs to act a certain way and she's expected to, and they could be executed if they weren't. And we saw that like through history there was a lot of women executed
Yeah. There's a
because
really
they
great book on that, on about basically how royalty and stuff, women just were not allowed to be people. And it's called Sex with the Queen. And it talks about the
yeah
few of them that actually did get to sort of flex and be like people. But it does cover really well, like basically, because like we have this, like we romanticize like princesses and stuff. And like nobody would want to be a princess. You don't get to have a life. You don't get to be a person. You are obligated to the role that you were born into and have no say or choice or whatever. And so it's really weird that we have this whole like fantasy thing that we feed our kids about something that, maybe the last couple generations in the UK, they have a different experience of it. But before that, you know,
no. And you
not,
see it even now though in their family,
yeah,
of if the woman doesn't act right or isn't what they expect her to be, that they're pretty exiled from the family as well.
yeah.
And the princes can go off to Vegas and do all the crazy things they want to do, but they're welcomed back into the family as soon as they
Oh,
come
they're
back.
just boys.
I mean, they always had concubines and crap anyway, so I
Yep.
guess you can't really say Vegas is much different.
Nope.
And drinking and drugs was always part of royalty, and it was seen
Yeah.
as a status symbol. Whew. I'm glad I wasn't a woman in those times.
I know, right? When people are like, "Oh, do you want to time travel?" I'm like, only to the future because I want to see what happens next. I would not go into the past, any era.
Like, fashion is one thing, and when I feel like that's what people think of when they think of different periods of time, is the fashion and the like scenery and the way the architecture and things like that, but they're not thinking of actual society and laws and what was going on at the time.
And the lack of antibiotics, or like, yeah,
People dying of bladder infections.
right.
I'd be dead right now. Okay, so now I hear the groans of the "just leave him" crowd, because that's what we hear even now today, and it's not even easy to leave them now today if they're abusive.
Right.
Divorce was not a thing. You could not get divorced. And even if they could, women were not allowed to go to court. Women were not allowed to represent themselves for anything, and they could not initiate anything to do with law. So there was nothing, like they would have to have a man go to court for them and speak for them and file everything for them if anything happened to a woman. So they're not getting divorced. It's not a thing. And if they run and they leave and they're found, they can be executed.
Yeah.
So
Women aren't people.
mm-mm. So yeah, leaving your husband was not a card they could play. This is what gave Giulia an idea for a way to help these women. Giulia had a heart for these women, and I have a feeling it had a lot to do with her mother, and that her mother was stuck in a situation that she witnessed. There's no proof of that, but for her to be so gung-ho on helping these people, I can't imagine another reason why.
Yeah. Pattern of human behavior tends not to stray.
Yeah, women this time only had a few options to make money on their own. They could get married, which isn't really making it on your own. And if their husbands died, they could be left an estate and finances, but they'd have to have a male oversee those things, but they could at least maintain them. They could beg. They could be sex workers, which was dangerous then, but also was a status symbol in and of itself, a little different than today.
Yep.
Or they could sell products that they made themselves. And so that's what Giulia decided to do. She dove into the world of apothecaries, which I love that word. I want an apothecary.
Get some of my meds from a place called Apothecary Options.
Oh, they kept it. Which back then were pharmacists selling medicines, which pharmacists back then could make the medicines and could even prescribe them. You didn't have to go to a doctor, which is how it is in other countries, mind you. I didn't even have this in my script. When I was in Paris and I got a bladder infection, like one does on vacation, I went to the pharmacy and I told them, I know I have a bladder infection. And they believed me because we know. And they mixed up, just like an apothecary, they mixed up herbs together. They put it in a tincture. I still have the bottle. And they gave it to me. And they also gave me some like gel pills that would numb my bladder. And it did not turn my pee orange or red, guys.
Really? Oh, wait. I bet. Oh, I like was thinking. Sorry, my brain just. I know the word for what they probably used because I used to work with an herbalist when I was younger, and I had a doctor who would do both, like herbal, and then like if that didn't work, then it's like marshmallow root or uva ursi.
That was in there. Marshmallow was in there. It was
uva
a mixture
ursi
of
another
things.
one. Yeah,
and it tasted good.
Yeah.
And they just had me put it under my tongue like 3 times a day. And I felt better with it like in less than a day. I took all of it like you're supposed to, but I didn't have to take antibiotics. Like obviously there was antibiotic properties in what they made, but I felt better like immediately, and I was able to go and walk all the way up that Eiffel Tower.
That's cool. When I was in Singapore, it was like there's certain things you go to the doctor for, and there's other things you could just go like buy. Like at the time, we didn't even have this available in the U.S. at all. You couldn't even get it as a prescription, which was the topical NSAID. And and I brought extra back with me because it helped my wrist pain so much. And the stuff that we have here that's prescription doesn't work the way the stuff did that I got over there, so I don't even bother with it. But
There's
it was
no
just cool.
reason
And I
it's a
spent
prescription.
$11 at the doctor, like to see a doctor, get a prescription, and all that. And it was like $11, and I didn't have to use insurance or anything. I was just like,
yeah.
well,
When I was in Paris, it was like $28 for both the medications and to consult with the pharmacist. And they believed me. They got me the medication. I got better. Yeah. I don't know why that's not the way it is here. Like we know when we have an infection, okay?
Right. Money. I know. I love going to the doctor, and they're like, "You don't have an infection. The test was normal." And I was like, "Yeah, except that false positives are actually really common if your viral load isn't that high."
Yeah. And then they test it later, and they test it the more strong way, and then it's positive. They call you back 2 days later.
Yeah, and they were like, in that case, they refused to do it, and it went to my kidneys because they didn't want to. And then I just went to the hospital instead and was like, "This is what happened," and they were like, "Oh yeah, here you go." You know, it's ridiculous.
Sounds like my experience at the hospital here the other day.
Yeah.
I called their supervisor yesterday and told her what happened because I don't know if I talked about it on our other video or if it even happened yet when we've recorded, but I went to the hospital, guys. I know I'm rabbit trailing here, but they basically told me nothing was wrong with me and I'm chronic, so they can't fix me. So they sent me home with nothing. And I went to another hospital a couple days later, and I had a horrible kidney infection, kidney stones. My esophagus was bleeding, my stomach was bleeding. I had esophagitis. I had a cyst that had just ruptured near my stomach. And this is just what they found while I was in there. And then they kept calling me with more stuff going on, more things I'm deficient in that my body's just not absorbing. And then they got me in sooner with my GI. So I'm going to be seen 5 days sooner now.
Hey, 5 days is...
No, I was so thankful.
Yeah. How far out is that? Like
September 7th. So it's still a couple weeks away, but because we're recording on the 16th.
I waited a year to see my GI, so yeah.
I've been waiting. I made an appointment originally in February, and the appointment wasn't until September 19th. at the other hospital. And then I got into Mayo, and they were able to schedule me in September as well. And now it's September 7th, so I'm glad it's sooner, but
Still, that's since February.
it's a long wait. That's not how long I've waited at Mayo. That was how long I was waiting in Colorado. But Mayo was only like a 2-month wait, where Colorado, obviously, that was a whatever month wait. A ridiculous wait.
Yeah, I'm waiting like 14 months to see a rheumatologist because they think I have rheumatoid arthritis. And I'm like, oh, so I'm going to wait 14 months for a progressive?
Yep. And same with this. Like, it's only getting worse.
Yeah.
And they're thought as the cause to why my vagus nerve being crushed. There's less likely a chance you can fix it the longer you wait.
Yeah.
So part of the consultation will be whether or not I have to get a G-tube, or if they're going to attempt the surgery on my neck to fix it. So it depends on what's better, or a feeding tube that bypasses my stomach. So those are the options that we're going to discuss, which is really fun. And I'm allergic to adhesive, so that's going to be really fun on my face or around the stoma.
Yep.
Either way.
They threatened me with the tube when I wasn't able to eat, but I finally got to the point that I could get enough in that I still had malnutrition, but I was at least. They went, oh, we're not going to do that. And I was like, I kind of wish you would, just for a while.
Yeah. Like, I'll handle the rash I get on my face if I can feel like I'm getting nutrients. I'm actually losing weight now. I wasn't before. I was, like, really bloated, and now a lot of that water weight is gone, and my stomach is smaller, and I've actually lost weight now, which they said is common when you first start starving to, like, try to save everything. But now I'm past that point. Now my body's eating what it's stored.
Yep. Yeah, I lost 60 pounds in under 3 months.
Jeez.
And they were like, my doctor was like, I'm not concerned because you still have padding, and refused to do the blood work. And so I went to the allergist. Yeah, and the allergist took one look at me and was like, we're going to do blood work. Did your primary do? And I'm like, no, she told me that she wasn't worried about it because I have enough fat. And he was like, what?
That's not how that works.
Obviously, you're losing muscle. So they did the blood work, found that I had the malnutrition, and the allergist helped me because my primary wouldn't.
When they were reviewing at the Mayo, reviewing my blood work, a lot of the proteins and stuff that they were finding in my blood are from malnutrition, from my muscles being eaten.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that makes sense, actually, why those levels were high, because it's being absorbed into my bloodstream from my muscles.
Yeah.
Hey. Okay, back to Giulia.
Yes.
Sorry, guys. So Giulia, where was I at? Oh yeah, so she dove into the world of apothecary. So she started just mixing her own and learning from the people at the clinics. And they were teaching her very gladly. She already had some knowledge from her mother, and some people think that she learned to make poisons from her mom, and some people think it was from this. I think it was a mixture of the two. She got really, really good at it, just mixing different things, discovering them, making things more potent and work better as far as medicine. But then she really liked poisons. And she discovered a poison that was clear, odorless, tasteless, and you only needed about 4 to 6 drops to kill a grown man. And she named this Aqua Tofana. Aqua Tofana. She marketed it as a woman's cosmetic product, and the bottle looked like such. And I will post pictures of the bottles on the Instagram, as well as I made a Twitter, guys. I made a Twitter. Lee made me do it.
I did.
I don't know how to twit, but you guys can help me.
I guess it's called X now, but Twitter, we all know, yeah. So, do you know if the image for Aqua Tofana is copyrighted or something? Because I'm thinking
the bottles are from the 17th century, They are not copyrighted, and these are actual bottles that lasted through time, and they're in museums. So no.
Nice. I was
Um,
just thinking it would be cool to have like use the bottle, or like if there was any artwork on the bottle, and then have it say the name of it, and then just do some like mugs.
oh yeah, Aqua Tofana is not copyrighted.
Yeah.
So yeah, Bailey Sarian has some. We could have some too. Buy them both, okay, guys? I'm not stealing from her.
Do it.
She did a lot of work for all of us to know this information. Uh, so yeah, she marketed it as a cosmetic product. For some women, though, that were not allowed to wear makeup, she didn't want them left out either, because religion was very big back then. She marketed them as a religious healing oil, which there's bottles of this too left. Depending on the type of environment the husband allowed the woman to be in. So this was considering, yeah, some women weren't allowed to wear makeup. They would not be suspected of having contraband in their home. And it looked like a religious little bottle that you would have like Tears of Mary in. And this one was called, I think I have it in here later of what she actually called it, but it was very clever. Okay, so she began marketing and selling it along with her daughter through the makeup business they started. It blends in with their other beauty items. So they sold legit makeup products, and she was really good at making those too, and very successful with just makeup in general.
So, she was married and then had just a daughter, or
According to what we can find, we do not see a husband's name anywhere, but I would assume she was married at some point, and he may have died, but that's not in any records. Only her and her daughter are in the records, so it's very unclear if she was ever married. But yeah, she has a daughter, and the daughter works with her the whole time through this company and helps her. There's not a lot of information on the daughter. I don't even know if we have her name. But I don't even think her name is in the records. But yeah, the daughter helps the whole time and has a heart for it as well. So, and she has other employees eventually too that help her. And they end up working out of 3 cities in Italy. She had different forms. Some were mixed with powders, and others were like foundation setting powder, and others were disguised as a vial of like drops for your face at night to make you beautiful. And then here's the name of the spiritual one. They were vials labeled Manna of Saint Nicholas of Bari, the healing ointment for the religious wives. And yeah, Giulia had a bleeding heart for these women stuck in these abusive marriages with seemingly no escape. She became known to befriend troubled wives, and through word of mouth, more and more of these wives found themselves at Giulia's makeup counter to be vetted for a quick and discreet solution to their marital problems. Part of the success of it was that it was nearly impossible to detect the poison. And it took time for it to work in its victim and progressed. So it wasn't like they just got really ill and died. It was like a progressive illness. And it started out as like a cold, and then the cold would get worse, and then it was like the flu, and then they got worse and died. And a lot of people died of the flu back then. So it wasn't a weird thing. And it didn't mimic any sort of other poison that they had back then. And the way that she administered it and the way she diluted it and the progression of it, no one would know. And it was not detectable at that time through any sort of science or medical post-mortem proceedings.
Yeah. Guessing we would have tests for that now.
Yes, we would know now. All of these things are testable now. Also, the poison killing so slowly and leading the men to realize they were sick long before they passed, they would make sure their affairs were in order and make sure that their homes were also in order before they kicked the bucket. With religious wives, it was also important that they had this time for their husbands to admit their wrongdoings and be able to go to heaven and not sit in purgatory or the bad place. And so the wives felt a little bit better about killing their husbands. She began selling it in a more liquid form, which was those drops that took only 4 to 6 drops to kill a man. Most were 4, but she always gave them 6 to be sure that it could do the job.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, was odorless and tasteless, so you could even put it in water and they wouldn't realize it. So the typical methods were wine, water, and soup that they would mix it in. The first dose would come on sometimes a day later and would mimic a cold, which would get worse after the second dose. The third dose would bring on a worsening flu-like illness. This would cause diarrhea, vomiting, dehydration, as well as a very painful abdomen. And I wonder if someone's giving this to me right now. No! I'm being poisoned. By the fourth dose, they would die. And if not, they just got worse and they gave them a couple more doses and they died.
They will die.
Each dose was just a drop of the concoction. At most, it took 6 drops, and Giulia would give them the whole 6 just in case. And that way they would also have some left over and have a little bit to leave on their counter and make sure that they never got rid of it before the husband body was taken away, so that it wasn't just being found that they were in the garbage and stuff at everyone's home, that it would just look like a religious emblem or a beauty product on their desk so no one would think anything of it. Giulia's clients were so thankful, and they only recommended her to people they trusted and they knew needed the help. They were very protective of Giulia, so they did not want anything to happen to her. They didn't want to recommend her to somebody who was going to end up telling on her or get it beaten out of them that this was going on, or come clean to their husbands or get caught. They wanted people that were going to actually follow through with it and needed her help. And so she would actually vet them, their backgrounds, meet their friends, befriend their friends to learn more about these people before she ever agreed to do it. And then Giulia successfully had her makeup counter for 50 years, mind you. 50. She was doing this.
Wow.
I think she started really young because her mom died when she was really young. So I think she had her daughter really young. And, I just had a thought. Because when her mom died, I believe she already had her daughter and she was a teenager. I wonder if her dad had something to do with it. That's just in my head, okay, guys? Because it never mentions a husband.
Yeah. Or seems like it would be really difficult to navigate the world at that time as a single parent without having the history of marriage, though.
Yeah.
And she ran like a successful business that franchised, basically.
But she would have had everything left to her from her dead father. And her mom was in, as far as people think, her mom was also into apothecary. And so I think that that's how she got introduced to those people, and she was kind of raised around it after her mom died. And I think that's how she got into it from what we do know from her journals. So I think that that is probably what happened, but there's no history of what actually happened.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't shock me if her father was the father. But different
thing, and it's more of a thing then.
But yeah, through those 50 years, she had no suspicions, nothing. No one even came to her questioning anything. But she got smarter and smarter as she went, just in case anything happened. All of her ingredients that were in the poison are also found in makeup, so there's no real odd reason she'd be buying those things. They were in other products that she had, including those eye drops.
My brain is so what with the eye drops, and then what, I can't help but wonder, what was was there a really high rate of eye cancer later in life for women then or something?
I would assume so. I'll have to look into that. Do they live long enough to have eye problems?
Well, they don't have to worry about getting old and feeling unattractive in their age because they live long enough.
She became really successful there and Palermo, where they were at, and she moved a second location to Nepal. And so she had employees, and so she had people running both counters and knowing how to make things at both places, which I have a theory about that later. So she moved her business to Nepal and then ended up moving her business again to Rome so she could help more women, and had more employees. And I believe her employees were probably past clients.
Probably.
Because that way they could make money, and they were able to work. All of her employees seemed to be women from what I read.
There'd be like a trust rapport there that,
You go down, I go down.
Yeah, exactly.
I go down, you go down. I think that works better. Giulia gave coaching to the women that she was helping of how to act as their husbands grew sicker and sicker before allowing them to have the poison. She wants there to be no reason for suspicion to fall on the wife. So this is part of what made her successful, as well as her clients successful, in not getting caught. They were told to call doctors to help their husbands' illnesses, and the doctors would mix medicines for the symptoms and give it to their husbands. They would call the doctors back again a couple of days later and be very attentive the whole time to their husbands' illnesses and begging the doctors to help them and wondering why it's not working. The doctors would be confused and provide more prescriptions.
Probably bleeding and other weird things that happened then.
Yes. Bring on the leeches.
Yeah. Give them some mercury for good measure.
I don't think cocaine was around yet, but
yeah.
If it was, give them that too.
Right.
Opium. I think opium was around then.
Yeah.
And then once they died, they would demand a post-mortem examination of the body and want to know what was wrong and caused it. And all of this together made the women seem like attentive wives that were very sad. And then she also taught them how to behave after they passed away, during the funerals and during everything else and the mourning period, and exactly how to behave. And they would practice it before she ever gave them the poison.
No skipping for joy.
No, just in your room.
Yeah.
Put on some Elvis. And then later on, she got even smarter with it and started putting cosmetic instructions on the bottles to make it seem even more like a beauty product. And again, the ingredients were all used in cosmetics at the time, so that's scary, but the women would not get rid of the bottles. They would leave them on their nightstands with the instructions so it would never seem suspicious or noticeable to the authorities. And there would still be product left in them, so it was like, no. And you could even put it on your skin because it was all stuff that they had in their makeup. It's not good for you, but they could even be like, yeah, see, it's just my night stuff. I just put it on before bed. With all of the success for so long, sadly, things can't always stay good. I guess the saying is that all good things must come to an end. In the 1650s, a woman came to Giulia to purchase the liquid escape. And Giulia trained her just like she did everyone else. She vetted her just like every other client. The lady had every intention of using it on her husband. She made him a bowl of soup and added 2 drops of aqua Tofana. As she sees her husband go to take a sip, she had a change of heart. She starts yelling and screaming at her husband to put the soup down. It says this. After she had watched him take 1 or 2 sips, and he began attacking her and beating her, wondering why she's yelling at him and trying to take his food away. He beats her until she agrees to tell him, and she confesses to him what she had tried to do. He was furious with her and took her down to the authorities to confess to them what she had done. Immediately, they took her in to torture her and put her on torture devices until she admitted to everything and gave the names and locations of where she had received the product. And they killed her after she admitted to everything. What else are they going to do with her?
I'm surprised that she was able that it took so long for that to happen, because that particular like no, we see it in TV all the time, so there's kind of like this sense that like people are gonna chicken out, and I
Mm-hmm.
50 years is a really long time when dealing with
Yeah.
something that like I can only imagine the amount of anxiety that those women felt when they were taking this step to free themselves.
So, and also I realized something looking at this, at the timing of her death and the timing of her mom's death. Her mom was actually alive when she opened the beauty counter. So she wasn't young when her mom died, but she was young when she had her daughter. And so I think that she might have helped her mom kill her dad. Ah. Yeah, looking at the dates now, I'm like, because she had it for 50 years. Yeah, so Giulia was actually warned by people that the authorities knew and that this was going on. And so she packed up her stuff. She knew she'd be killed and tortured. She knew there was no way around that if they caught her, no matter what, because of the witch hunts going on.
Yeah.
So she ran to a church for sanctuary, and the church took her in. And then she was trying to plan what to do next, where to go, and how to escape from the church safely. And yeah, it didn't go well. Rumors started flying, because they do, and the game of banana phone. It got all the way to the fact, yeah, she poisoned the water supply, according to them, and put spells on the water supply because she's a witch.
Right.
Evil. So people were very angry, and they actually had a mob come to the church to find her because they found out she was there. I'm just imagining them with their pitchforks and their like,
yeah. The anger, the like self-righteous anger faces,
Exactly. And I bet it was all men, and then their wives like on leashes behind them. Come on, you're coming with me.
Yeah. I'm gonna show you what happens when you stand up for yourself.
This is witchcraft if you try to kill me. So they went to the church. They demanded they release Giulia, even though she was there under protection. So technically they didn't have to, but they threatened to burn the church down and destroy it if they did not release her. So they're like, you gotta go.
Yeah.
We can't have our church burned down. So they ended up taking her in and horribly abusing her and torturing her, having her on all sorts of torture devices to get everything they could out of her. She did confess to between 1633, which is after she actually started the business, to 1651, which is when she was caught. So it took a little while for them to get her. To killing over 600 men.
Solid.
And it's thought to be a lot higher than that. And her journals and her manifests and everything kind of confirm these numbers and the timing and everything, but it's thought to be a lot higher than that because she started before 1633 killing people. So she helped a lot of women.
Yeah, that's, it's like that's how the world was shaped. Like what were you going to do to get away from a nightmare, basically?
Yeah, and
to me it seems totally reasonable. Like,
Exactly. It does, because these women, a lot of them did not want to have babies. They were terrified of getting pregnant because they would die. Like they were very likely to die. The more babies they had, the more likely they were to die. And the more likely their baby was to die too. And the husbands weren't seeing the babies as babies. They were like asset. Depending, a different type of asset if it's a male or a female. And they just wanted more and more of them so that they could trade them off for status and have workers depending on what type of field they were in or which level of society.
Yeah, no doubt, like the majority of those women were probably living in like fear of like the next punishment for just basically existing, because it was just so normalized.
They found out that her daughter was helping her, so they caught her daughter as well and tortured and killed her. They found out about some of her employees and either tortured them and killed them, or they locked them up. And then they found a bunch of her clients. Of course, she didn't have names for all the clients in her book because she didn't want people to know who they were. But she had her manifest from selling product, and it wasn't just Aqua Tofana, but it was mixed in with all of her other beauty products so that it wouldn't be known like that's what that was. So they were able to find a lot of them through figuring out who purchased the Aqua Tofana. And they either killed them for witchcraft as well, or murder, or they imprisoned them in the Palace of the Holy Office. Sounds like a lovely place. I'd love to vacation there someday.
I just instantly got this, like, that all these prisoners go in there to be secretaries. That was what my brain did with the name of that. Like,
I'm Jesus' secretary.
I was a bad girl.
Forgive me, Father, for I have been naughty. Oh, sorry. Oh. So there were actually rumors throughout time that some of her employees continued making Aqua Tofana and passed it down, and that women were still discreetly doing this while it was still untraceable. And there is a famous person who believed that they were killed in this manner. Mozart.
I was just going to say, because it matches his symptoms.
So Mozart was, at the end of his life, even said, "I believe I am the victim of Aqua Tofana." And it could be true, because I don't believe they caught all of her employees, and they believed in what they were doing. And if they went under a different name, a different guise, they could easily do it under a different makeup company and continue doing the same thing.
This is totally random, but, like, what if they turned into, like, a secret society and they still existed?
I would love it.
That would be cool.
Aqua Tofana.
Aqua Tofana.
We are not part of that society. I wonder if you just heard my neck crack in the microphone. So back then, there was no way out for many of these women. And I'll leave it up to you guys of whether or not you think she was a villain or a hero. I've made my stance pretty clear on that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, with the high mortality rates, it just, like, I don't blame them at all for wanting to not have babies and not wanting to be raped.
Yep. Not having autonomy and not being safe. Like, just, it's unimaginable. I mean, abusive people are so creative sometimes. Just, it's unimaginable, like, what all those women were going through at that time and just throughout history,
And just how hard it is even today to leave. And we don't have a lot of those barriers it's easier now, but the most dangerous time for anyone to leave an abusive situation is the most dangerous time in an abusive situation is leaving. Yeah. And so people just saying just leave, that you're telling them to make it worse. You're telling them face that very scary thing, and I'm not going to help you plan it, just do it.
Do it. Yeah.
No, you need a plan.
I know that when I left, there was nobody there. Like, I asked for help, and they didn't help. Like, they kept being, oh, it can't be that bad, and blah, 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 and yeah.
I had the church telling me that I needed to try harder and just needed to be understanding and go to church more and pray for him and read the Power of the Praying Wife book and do the Love Dare and all of that stuff. And I'm like, why is it me doing that? Why is it me you're talking to about this?
Yeah.
Because I was the one wanting to leave. And I'm like, no, he should be doing this to me to prove that he's changed. But that
Yeah,
he's not going to.
why isn't there a book on how to not be a douche? You know, like how to treat your spouse as a person and not property, and like it doesn't. That shit pisses me off. Again.
One of my exes flat out told my mom and stepdad that it was my duty to pleasure him, to keep him from cheating.
Yep.
That it's my fault, my response. You're telling my parents that. Like, if you are telling them that, like, can they imagine what's happening behind closed doors?
Right.
And they didn't believe me, the things that I would say. And I'm like, he's flat out telling you this. Like,
Yeah.
make it work for the child.
Yeah. The bad one for me he didn't tell people that, but he told me that. Like, and I was just like, no. You know, which of course made it worse because I like have always been like where I argue and stand up for myself. My parents were abusive and I would scream at them as they were coming in at me to hit me. I'd just be like, so for me, like, I hadn't learned how to like back down, and I didn't realize how much worse it was going to make me to stand up for myself. So I just be like, no, and then it made things a lot worse. But,
Yeah. It's terrible. Like, it's so frustrating that people don't see that, because then they're like, why don't you fight back? Why don't you? It's because when we have, it's been worse.
Yeah.
And I learned growing up with abuse in my household to not speak out because of how worse it was, and to be silent and to not have boundaries. And it was just the way that it was in each relationship, with me never having learned those things, like how to do those and be, I guess, healthy in a relationship. And I hadn't seen a healthy relationship like close up. I've seen it from afar at friends' houses,
Yeah.
but not. And part of me in my head would think when I was at friends' houses, oh, they're just putting on a show for me. That's not how families actually are.
Yeah, I thought that too. And the few times that I was around somebody enough to realize that they were really like that, it like blew my mind.
Mm-hmm. And having friends that are like that, and even as an adult now, I don't believe it all the time, because you never know what's going on behind closed doors. And in my head, I think every relationship's horrible, but they're not. I know they're not in like my mind, in a place in there.
Yeah, I mean, like if you haven't gotten to experience it, how can you have the experience to draw from to be able to start to reshape your expectations? And that's why I like to be like the idea of being in a relationship makes me feel so tired, because to me, like, every relationship has been work where I lose my sense of self because I'm always doing all the caretaking, all the mental labor and stuff like that, and it just
Without your cup getting refilled.
Yeah, and just not getting the support back. And so, like, without having I know that relationships exist where people have partnerships and where there's give and take, but I haven't experienced it. And so I can't really imagine it in a way that feels real to me.
Exactly. And that's where I'm at too. And the most I had in a relationship that was like very give and take on both sides was a guy who died. So, and we weren't together that long. So part of me in my head always thinks like, well, if we were together longer, it would have changed. But I know he was a good guy. Like, it's just the way my mind is programmed. But
Yeah.
that was the only time, because even in my best relationship, that, by best I mean least arguments and like fighting and all of that, was my ex that we're still friends today. And it wasn't a very romantic relationship. It was more like best friend roommates that got married.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like that, even that was not healthy. Like that was not what I needed, and neither of us felt like we were getting our needs met. And we didn't know how to express that, or we didn't even know what our needs were. So we both grew up in very abusive situations.
It makes it so much harder when you're like, I know I'm not getting what I need. I don't actually know what I need, and so I'm sorry that I can't like tell you. But
Mm-hmm.
then, I like my most recent one, I my needs were not getting met. There was no arguing or anything like that. Like he's very like passive, and I'd always be like, asking for his opinions on stuff because like the passivity makes me nervous. Because
Mm-hmm.
I know that people who are like very anxious and tend to be passive, they're less likely to speak up even when they have a preference. And like to me, it's really important that both people are taken into consideration. So I would be like, well, you have to decide if we're having this meat or that meat for dinner, kind of thing. He'd be like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
but there was no arguing and stuff. And at first, I thought that meant like a good thing, but then over time, I realized my needs weren't getting met, and some of them I knew very specifically and could spell them out, and then some of them, I it was stuff I was hoping to get to learn through getting my needs, exploring with somebody else, and um, I realized that there was just so much neglect, and that neglect is, like I think we've talked about that before, but like that neglect is a form of abuse in and of itself,
Mm-hmm.
but because I have this association of like abuse being aggressive and loud and triggering like the stress responses in certain ways and stuff, like I didn't recognize it for what it was, um, for a while, and then now I've had to like incorporate this new understanding and have like a whole other thing to look out for, you know.
Exactly. It's so true. And we don't see abuse in like on screen very much as anything other than loud and violent. But abuse can very much be the silent treatment. It can be just not meeting your needs at all. I mean, we need to meet people, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, with the other person's love languages in mind, and not just love them in our way, but listen to what they need and not make excuses. When someone comes to you and says, my needs aren't being met, these are what the needs are that are being neglected, us saying, not coming to them being, but I did this, this, and this for you,
Hmm.
that doesn't negate what I'm telling you right now. And I
Right.
can at a different time appreciate you for those things that you do, but you're not meeting these needs. And avoiding those and doing these things over here is not healthy.
Right.
There needs to be a balance. And if you need to do less of those things in order to meet my needs here, I'm okay with that because those things aren't as important to me.
Yeah. it doesn't it doesn't count if you're doing what you want to do and what you're comfortable doing, like,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not doing the thing that was agreed upon and discussed, then you're not doing the thing, period.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And it's like I'm such a helpful and like supportive person that like when I was like in a situation where like literally just not getting any of my needs met, I was like mind boggling because I would be like, here, let me explain to you what I mean and what can I do to help and all of this stuff. And like they just couldn't do it. And um, in that person's case, it wasn't intentional. That it wasn't that they didn't care. Their anxiety is so severe that they just were unable to, even though they were watching the relationship fall apart. It was easier for them to let bad things happen than to do the things that would stop the bad things from happening, which is like my anxiety works the opposite. My anxiety is like, do the thing, do the prevention, do the, like do everything you possibly can to minimize these bad things happening. And
Yeah.
I got to learn about a whole other way of existing and thinking that I had never been exposed to. It just like I kept banging my head and going, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what is happening here? And then eventually, it was like a special interest for me. I hyper focused on this
Mm-hmm.
person's dysfunction because it made no sense, you know. And then accidentally stayed too long because I was trying to. But I did figure it out. So there's
And
that.
yeah, that's what's hard. And I feel like I do the same thing you do because I often find myself giving them even like a script, like, hey, in this situation, me hearing this from you, even if you can't do it right now, like I'm not expecting you to right now while I'm telling you my needs, meet my needs. But if you say, yes, I want to do those and learn about those from you, I need to focus on this for right now, but can we make time for us to do that? Like, That's all I want. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
the response.
Yep,
And
exactly.
I'm not saying like, hey, you need to admit that you've been so horrible, and like I want to move forward and I want it to be better moving forward. I don't want to focus on the past, and you're bringing it there and
Yeah.
focusing on the past and why you didn't do it for so long. I want to focus on the future and how we can do it.
Yeah.
And
That whole focusing on the past thing's like it's just like an avoidant. It's a way to avoid doing, thankfully I didn't deal with that in that relationship, but just like, because I don't expect perfection, right? Like I'm like, I see like every new relationship, you come into it with like your baggage, you come into it with your understanding of language, because we all understand language differently. And so when you form a relationship, romantic, friendship, whatever, you are building a new language together so that you can like, connect. And so I see like relationships as this opportunity to grow and learn. As a matter of fact, if I'm in a relationship and I don't feel like I'm growing as a person anymore, I leave. I don't see relationships as being a forever thing. I see them as being, something that benefits both of us. And if I'm not, if I'm not sensing that, then I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's time to go. I've, done my part. But like, it's like if you ask for something, hey, you incorporate this into your understanding of me so that my needs will be met in this way, we're going to learn how to do it together, because it's not going to be the same every single time. And I think a lot of people like get into relationships and they treat the next person the same way that they treated the last person, and they don't really like get to know
people.
Yeah, they don't have like a unique experience with the next person, because of like, just, I don't know, like, I don't know if it's like a lack of presence or a lack of like really taking the time to think about it and be like, okay, this is an individual experience, what can I take from it, or whatever it is. But I've noticed it even as like getting older, it becomes more and more of an issue. Like people are more flexible when they're younger, and then older ones, it's like they just can't like function outside of the stereotypes that they've built for relationships. And I'm like, literally blank slate, let's get to know each other in context of one another.
Yes, which is why my favorite first date to do with people, whether it's a friend date or a romantic date, it doesn't matter, is I love going to escape rooms with them, because you learn so much about how they think and how you work together and how you can merge like your two ways of thinking together to get problem solved. And it's become my favorite thing to do on first dates with people.
I've never done an escape room. I have shied away from them because on the spot thinking, I become like slow, because I like have to analyze everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I always like worried that I wouldn't be able to participate well enough, because, and it's possible once I was there I would get into it, but like I'm always like, if you ask me what's your favorite whatever, my brain goes, and then 5 minutes later the answer comes. And so I kind of,
well, we'll do it together, and I won't judge you for it.
Okay. Yeah.
They're fun. They're so fun.
I would be willing to try it with you. I feel like, you would not judge me. So that would
No. And if you come here when my escape rooms are done, I'll have them set up one that I don't know the answers to, and we can do it together, and we can film it because it'll be mine.
Okay.
And we can go through it, and then we can post it later. I'll just have like a warning to people that if you go to do this one, this is how it's done.
Yeah. We could add like little stickers onto the video, like when I go blank, you see me blank, it'll be like, "Durr," like, because I'll be like,
and we can do it so that we have all the time in the world, because.
So removing the pressure, and then like if the first time there's no pressure, maybe I'd be more willing to do it, because like, games that have timers, oh no,
Mm-hmm.
like I can't, like I get so stressed out. There's a game that my friend got, and it's like you're supposed to be dismantling a bomb or something, and there's an app, and
yes,
it, like,
I have that game.
And I'm like, can we just play it without the sounds, please? Like,
the sound, yeah, I can't.
The game is fun.
You can set up the one I have. You can set up the timer on your phone, so
Yeah.
that it's not like like counting down.
Yeah. I just was like, can we just play it without? Like, I just want to play it and not have any of the pressure.
Yeah. Well, that's not how real bombs will be when you end up with one near you. So
I know. I'll blow up.
you're like, was it red or blue?
Then my brain will be all red and blue makes purple. Wait, what was I doing?
Die singing and dancing.
Or like, did you ever watch Spaced?
I don't think so.
It's with Simon Pegg, and there's a character. I'm pretty sure his name is Tires. It's not Wheels, it's Tires. And whenever like there's a sound that's rhythmic because he's done like too many drugs and he goes to raves, it turns into like a rave for him. So like the beeping of like the crosswalk thing, and he's standing there like, I so I just kind of imagine if there's like a timer and he just like turned it into like a rave.
I've only been to a silent, I guess it was a rave show festival.
Where people wear their headphones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are so fun.
Yeah. I went to a psytrance. It was just like at a club in San Francisco, and there were a bunch of people wearing the headphones and stuff. They still had the music playing loud, but I thought that was cool, just because I would be pretty happy just wearing these just to lower the like noise level.
Yeah.
And I've been to
That's
a few
why-
raves like years ago, but
Yeah.
that was like,
I don't think I could do an indoor rave. My sensory stuff, like I can't have a bunch of people around me, especially if I were to take something.
yeah, yeah,
Which I have never done except for shrooms and weed. So
yeah. I
natural.
went to
girly.
a barn rave, but it was both doors were open, so it was like
That's
one
it,
big
yeah.
open. And I still stayed at the outer edge, and I just had my camera. I don't do drugs. I have done E, but it was like one time, and in a controlled space rather than like a party space.
Mhm.
But and it was phenomenal for my PTSD. But I just stood there and took pictures, like did like long exposure pictures of people playing with the lights,
Ooh.
and I got some really cool ones. So
I
would
wanna see
I would do
those.
that. I would go to events just to take pictures, because I love doing like candid action shots and stuff.
Yeah. If I'm feeling better, I'm supposed to go to a festival with my friend Jax. Hi, Jax, if you're listening. Because I want to see the artists that are there. Jax doesn't do a lot of stuff either. Just likes music and dancing. So
Yeah.
it'd be a good person to go with because neither of us will be crazy unless we get drugged. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think I would be willing to go to a festival if it's outdoors, so I
Mhm.
can like control like COVID exposure, and then and stay away from the loud, and then have in out so I could go
Mhm.
rest. 'Cause I need
yeah,
to,
I was
like,
thinking of taking
nap.
my bus up there, and then so I'd have the fridge, water, whatever, a bed, and a lock.
Yeah.
A tent still scares me.
Yeah.
That way I feel a little safer. I have electricity and can go and relax there and then go back if I feel like I need to leave. I have that out and a place to go. And I don't, like I said, I've done shrooms and they do nothing to me because I'm on SSRIs.
Mhm.
So I microdose them for PTSD, which does help.
They make me
But-
depressed if I
Oh,
microdose them, like
no.
severely depressed. I was like, oh, I want to try that, just to try the microdosing, because the science
Yeah.
is really interesting, and my brain never responds to anything correctly, and it just went, I'm gonna make you sad, and I don't get like sad very often, so it's
Yeah,
not-
that's not cool. I
Yeah.
didn't feel anything. I didn't feel any change in like mood or anything, but my PTSD responses were less. So I think it worked. Even if it's a placebo, I don't care. I'm out of it now. It's only legal where I got it.
Yeah.
And I want to do it again because I can tell the difference. Like being off of it, I ended up in the hospital twice. So
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
it, I felt a ton better, and I don't think that there's And like I said, I don't even care if it's a placebo. And there's science behind it. I don't think it was a placebo effect, but I tried to take enough for it to do something, and nothing, absolutely
Yeah.
nothing.
So interesting. The chemistry that varies between people, and yeah, like so for my PTSD stuff, what's helped me the most is Adderall.
Which I've never
It
tried.
Yeah, it like because it relaxes me, um, and so when stimuli stuff happens that would cause me to be jumpy or whatever, I just don't react to it the same way. And like there is a shortage of the Adderall, and I haven't been on it since like November, and it's like so frustrating because like my cat, he's so aggressive, and it will like trigger it, and I'll just be like, oh come on, and I got like a year on Adderall, and then so I'm like, come on, shortage, you can finish now. I'm ready.
I don't understand why there's still a shortage of Adderall. It just, and some other medications too.
Yeah.
Luckily, Logan's didn't have a shortage that he's on. There was like 1 month that he wasn't able to get one of his medications during COVID stuff. But and then there was two different medications at different times that he wasn't able to get for a month, and that was a bummer.
Yeah.
Because you could definitely tell the difference. And luckily, they weren't any that had horrible side effects of not taking them. They were like PRN type medications, but he could see the difference. And when he can see it, you know that there's a problem. And going to school, he had a lot of issues at school during those months.
Yeah.
I wish it was during the summer that it happened, but
Yeah, it's interesting because I have friends that are getting their meds, and we're all living in the same area, but I can't get mine, which makes me feel like I'm on a short list of
yeah.
because they get the meds, but they don't have enough for everybody. So I feel like I got added to a list of not getting so that they can prioritize the people that are getting. I don't know if that's a thing, but it sure feels that way.
It makes sense that they would have a priority list of who would get medications. It sucks that they have to have that, but
yeah. It's in it like months ago that it was supposed to be better, and it's still not better. So I don't
do
know.
you just call every month, or are they going to let you know when it's available?
Yeah, they'll let me know because whenever I call, they say they don't know and that they'll let me know when they get it. And I've tried like multiple pharmacies.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, you could try a different medication. I'm like, yeah, you tell my psych that. I need to get a new one.
I did try a new one.
I did try Vyvanse, and it didn't work for me at all. Like I was really stressed out on it, and I didn't feel like doing anything. Like I literally looked at my phone all day, which is I'm not like that, and I was like, this is not working for me. And some people need, because Vyvanse doesn't have the I can't remember the word, but what the amphetamines have, there's like the Vyvanse doesn't have that. It works slightly different. It still kind of hits the same receptors, but it doesn't. That's why it's not as addictive, and it's an easier medication to get prescribed. And some people with ADHD have been found to basically respond a lot better if they have that ingredient that's missing. And so like it's a small percentage, but there are people like myself that just do not benefit from Vyvanse.
Logan didn't do well on that either. That one in 10x he didn't do well on, which I think
heard
it
of
is.
that one.
I think it's like Vyvanse. It doesn't have a lot of the same issues or addictive qualities to it. So they like to try it on kids first. But it did nothing. So
Yeah. That sucks.
yeah, but he's on a good regimen now. I'm trying to remember what the stimulant he's on is. It's not Adderall, it's something else. It's not Ritalin either, but it's something, and it's helping.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's like, I mean, it like literally makes me feel like a normal person. And the thing is how did a medication that I only started taking when I was old, uh, make me feel normal in a way that I've never been. How did I know what normal felt like? You know, like that
Right?
trips me out. I like chase that thought sometimes, and I'll just be like, how did I know what normal felt like if I've never felt that way? But
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't
it's,
think I know what normal feels like.
yeah, the closest that I ever felt the way that Adderall made me feel was when I was on my motorcycle, and not it's not because it was scary or exciting. I was never scared. It's because the stimuli from riding and all of the different layers of things that you have to think about, plus like the adrenaline, made me feel really relaxed because I was finally getting the stimuli. Because I basically am suffering from lack of stimulation all the time, or
Mm-hmm.
understimulation, and then I have a dopamine deficiency because that's a big part of the ADHD. Dopamine doesn't get to the receptors in the brain the way that it's supposed to, and the meds help with that. So, it's really hard to be motivated or find joy in things if you're not getting the dopamine.
Yeah. Ugh, I wonder sometimes if I have ADHD
Yeah, it's very possible. It's very common.
because I get like hyper fixated on things or I can't focus on anything. And there's no in between. And I have a real, like, I'll shut down completely if I can't focus on something and then do nothing when
Yeah,
I have so many
so
things
much
to
to
do.
do.
And then I get into like those cycles of either hyper fixating on one thing that I'm doing and like ignoring everything else or just letting everything go. And lately I've just been letting everything go. And if you could see my room around me, you would know the depression bubble that I've been in.
I think that's valid considering everything you.
I wish I could have one of those people just come into my room. The rest of the house is fine. If they could just come into my room, organize it, because this is where I shoved everything when I was changing out all the rooms to rent them out. Just shoved everything up here, and then a few, 2 months ago now, I washed all the laundry, and then the kids helped me fold it and put it into boxes for each of us to go back in the bus.
Yeah.
Then we didn't go back in the bus, so they're still sitting up here, and I have everyone's clothes in my room right now. So
Yeah.
it's
If
a
I
huge
lived closer,
mess.
I would help. I would never do that for myself. I would hate doing it for
I know,
myself, but I love doing
right?
it for other people. Like, let me at your mess. I will fix. You
I would,
know?
because honestly, if someone came up and just organized everything, I don't even care where, if they change any organization, I just want to know after they're done where everything is. And if someone else did it, I would that would make me keep it there. Because I'd
Yeah.
be like, I can't disappoint them by making it a mess again.
Right. If my stuff was like a mess where I needed help organizing, I don't know that I could accept help. Like, I totally help other people. I've done it lots of times. But I've never accepted help.
I
Um,
never have either, so I don't know how I'd actually do with it. But I think if I left and they did it, I wouldn't be able to stay here
yeah.
and them do it.
I would feel guilty. I would just be like, oh, stress.
That's
I'm
how it'd be.
sorry.
If I was here when they did it, I would feel the need to help and the need to explain everything and apologize for everything.
Yeah.
Cause like it's mainly clothes. Like it's not a lot of stuff. It's mainly clothes, and I don't have organization for it. My costumes are in a dog kennel because that keeps it away from the dog and the cats from laying on it. And if their litter box doesn't get cleaned in time, peeing on it.
Yeah.
They don't do that often, but if they get really mad.
Yeah. It doesn't take much for cats to get uppity about that.
So yeah, and their litter box is small because it's the one I had in the bus. So we clean it every day. But if I miss like a couple days, then I can tell they're mad, and then I try to catch it before they get
Yeah.
extra mad. But so I have to keep all the clothes away from where they can get. But I have a pile of the clothes that they did pee on to clean, but I don't know how to clean it because a lot of the chemicals to get the cat smell out I'm allergic to. So I'm trying just vinegar and baking soda.
Yeah. Anti-icky poo has an unscented that's actually pretty unscented,
Okay.
and it's a enzyme. It uses an enzyme, and the stuff like it works well enough that the animals will not sniff the area as long as you treat it correctly. It does have like a if you've already treated it with something else, they recommend treating it. They have a pre-treatment that you use to kind of get that stuff out so that the enzymes can get to the pee. But I only use anti-icky poo now for any kind of accidents because it's yeah, and I don't the perfumed stuff like the regular is scented and I can't do it, but the unscented stuff
I also
not a
feel like the
problem.
scented stuff just covers up the smell with another smell, and then I can smell both things.
Yeah. Well, the anti icky poo when I first started using it did not have the unscented version, and that stuff absolutely does work. That's why I
Okay.
swear by it. But I hate the perfume smell. It takes like 4 days to off gas, and so I just get the unscented stuff.
Yeah, I don't like the
Um,
scents.
and it's nice because I've never had it like stain any of my stuff or and you know like I'll if I've got like pee on clothing like my I used to have a dog a greyhound they're very tall and when he
Mm-hmm.
had like bowel issues his way of telling me he had bowel issues was to go to the bathroom in the house. A very tall
Oof.
dog with a splats means that it splashes like 6 feet away. There's I have I'll tell you a story not now but eventually someday about the Roomba but